We face many points of inflection in our careers and our lives, from new jobs and promotions to difficult bosses and layoffs. If we had all the time and resources possible, we could certainly figure it out eventually, but we don't. The challenge is that we're walking into roles where expectations are sky high, timelines are crunched, and there isn't much patience. So you need an accelerator, and that's exactly where coaching can help. Think of coaching as a catalyst for your success. In Coaching Ahas, we share stories of leaders, their courage and vulnerability to lean into coaching, and the breakthroughs that change their lives forever. Welcome to Coaching Ahas, where we share real stories of talented coaches and clients, one aha at a time. My guest today is Rahana Gittens, a fellow coach and business executive. Welcome, Rahana. Excited to dig into Coaching Ahas with you today.
Thank you, Shahana. I've been looking forward to our time together. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. This should be fun. Let's get the Rahana Shahana show on the road.
That's right. That's right.
Couldn't resist that one. Okay. So, our goal is to share leader breakthroughs through coaching. So, you have a leader in mind. Paint the picture for us. Why did the client come to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This client, her story is a favorite of mine. She, after many years of a very successful career as an individual contributor, she was promoted into a leadership role and had now under her a small but mighty team. And this was a new journey, a new chapter for her. So she recognized the need for support, which I commend her on, and that thus began our journey as me being her executive coach.
Those are actually the points of inflection where we need support. But a lot of people think, oh, I've got this. I can power through it, right? I'll read a few articles, I'll attend a training program, and I'm golden. And that's rarely the case because this is really about finding what's getting in your way and trying to sort of get past that so that you can be effective as a leader. So appreciate you sharing this great story with us. So tell us a little bit about what that journey of coaching was like for her and what happened.
Yeah, part of what we had to unlock together along this journey was her vision for herself and tapping into her self leadership. When you get this title and this responsibility, it's oftentimes overlooked in terms of how are you going to lead yourself. So that's a large part of what we focused on, at least initially, like her vision of leadership, her style of leadership, the dynamics that she'd observed on her team, and understanding those changes and shifts that she needed to make, along with what, let's be real, from a business perspective, she had to also achieve certain business milestones and objectives with her team support.
Could you perhaps share an example or two of where she had to sort of display that leadership with her team and perhaps one with her management team as well?
Yeah, she had a couple of challenges, which is open roles, really trying to understand who should she be bringing on the team, being also respectful of the dynamics and the tenure that already existed on the team.
Right.
So putting herself in a place where understanding that there was much for her to learn from her team. So really focusing on what was her leadership style, and really connecting with those more tenured members on her team to
Right.
get a sense of to what can they help her and support her with, as not
Yeah.
only were they filling open roles, but as you think of onboarding other members to the team.
Yeah. And that's actually such a great challenge because it happens often that sometimes you're promoted as a peer going into a manager role. Sometimes you have, people who are much more tenured than you are coming in as a leader. And so figuring out how to blend these very diverse experiences into a common team is quite challenging. So could you maybe talk through one of the biggest unlocks for her?
Yeah, actually, one of the huge unlocks that she had, and it's always so fascinating where the unlocks happen in the most unexpected times for
Right.
us, right? In these coaching conversations. And it wasn't with her team, but it was in a conversation about her preparing for a conversation with her boss.
Ah,
And it was that moment where she was getting really tactical in the conversation about, the list of things she wanted to talk about.
right.
I was picking up on an emotion, right? And some of the
Mm,
words that she was using and stopping her, reflecting the words that I was hearing. The conversation then shifted to something else that actually was the root and the foundation that she was skirting around all this time.
mm,
And it was about trust and building trust with her leader.
right.
So it's those powerful moments as an executive coach that, brings me joy, but then just watching the client kind of get to that space for themselves and that, wait a
Yeah.
second, what I thought I was focusing on is really not truly my root unlock.
There's so many lessons in there, but I think what that truly stands out is the fact that, how insights or epiphanies come in the most unexpected ways when you least, are thinking about it or planning for it, and you really can't plan for insights at all. That's such a great story, and thank you for sharing that.
My role as the coach is really to mirror and reflect questions back to them and things that I'm hearing.
Yeah,
They're actually doing the majority of the work.
right.
I'm along with them on the journey as they're walking, that path. But it's fascinating also to see the confidence as they start
Yeah,
to like unlock certain things. And as I just shared with the particular client,
yeah,
like have that moment of true realization that
yeah,
they have to shift. So it's so rewarding, and it's
yeah,
just really empowering to see that unleashing of power in the
yeah.
client's journey.
So beautifully said, because you're so right. We are all so bogged down with so many things. It's hard to step back and reflect or create even the space for it. I was just talking to someone this morning and I said, coaching is like having a GPS, right? And he's like, no, coaching is like having a GPS in rush hour. And I was like, you're right. Coaching is like being in city traffic and
That's right.
having a GPS during rush hour. Let's talk a little more about you. You've had such a successful career. Tell us a little bit about what drew you into coaching and why is it important to you?
I've just realized that it is my purpose to help the next generation of leaders. It is something that I've been saying for at least 10 years now, and certainly more so than that. I've
Yeah.
become in my HR space, a HR leader. Um, but the next generation is not just within HR. So
Yeah.
I'm happily in this space, happily in this space.
Love it. And it's so interesting because we do leave breadcrumbs of our purpose through our life. And sort of, you talked about having this vision 10 years ago and now finding a vehicle to actually do that. So that's amazing. And, kudos to you for leaning into it. Is there a specific moment in your career where you feel like you wish you had had coaching but didn't?
Yeah, um, I think that moment where moving from a middle level career managerial role into a more director level role, I think that would have benefited me a lot more. The mindset perspective when as you ascend the various levels within your career is super critical. And admittedly, I stumbled. I stumbled in some areas. Um, Particularly around self-awareness and particularly around self-leadership, and which I think is why I'm very passionate today about the self-leadership
Yeah.
part. And what I mean specifically about that is like, how do you still yourself as a leader?
Yeah.
Um, I really wish that I had that earlier on in my
Yeah.
career, because it's something that I really do believe has been an unlock and made such a tremendous
Yeah.
difference in my journey.
Yeah.
But that self-leadership piece, having someone who could help guide me along and reflect some of the conversations that sometimes we have in our heads,
Yes.
right? Is super critical. Even when you talk about imposter syndrome, what does that mean exactly? How do you really unpack that for yourself?
Yes.
Like, what does it mean to me as an individual? So I
Yeah.
think that would have been very powerful along my journey.
Yeah. So beautifully said. And I can certainly relate to it. I feel like there are points in my career where I wish I had coaching as well. And so I'm so glad that we get to do this together because, if anyone out there is having, that moment of self doubt, of uncertainty, feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed, feeling alone, I think it's, great to have them know that there is help available out there, right? And so they can reach out. And so thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing that.
It's such a pleasure.
I'd love to know, as you've gone through being coached yourself, is there a powerful moment of unlock that you've had?
Yes. This particular year, one interesting unlock for me has been flow, don't
Mhm.
force.
Hmm.
Um, for the majority of my life and certainly my career, I've been very planful, very like meticulous in setting up milestones, setting up plans, right? And to be honest, I felt over the past 2 years a sense of exhaustion
Yeah.
and not quite understanding like what that was about. And as I went through several coaching conversations, finally got to a space where I realized that, okay, I'm a little bit frustrated because things are not going as I think they should go. I'm not exactly in the space where I've been as planful as I've been in the past.
Mm.
But the unlock was that despite that, things were still happening.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment earlier this year that I was in flow
Yeah.
and things were still happening, that I don't need to force anything.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, structure can help, but it can
Yes.
also restrict and limit. And I love the idea of flow, not force. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Maybe a rapid fire question for you. What's
Sure.
your favorite coaching question?
Ooh, that's a good one. Rapid fire. So tell me how that does that make you feel?
Ah, okay. Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. And we're also programmed to be left-brained. It's nice to have that, moment of pause
Yep.
and, connect with our feelings. That's great. Thank you so much, Ro. This has been so much fun. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom with our listeners today. Really.
Oh, thank you, Shahana. This has been wonderful. Coaching ahas.